Hey there, Springford. I'm Erin Crew, Director of Communications, Marketing, and Media, and we're interviewing today Mr. Rizzo, our school superintendent, and then Mr. Carlos Wiley, one of our new partners in our diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Mr. Rothermel is going to be taking that interview over, but we're starting off here with Mr. Rizzo. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thanks.
Good.
Before we bring Mr. Wiley in, let's talk a little bit about the history of our EDI committee, how it came about, when it started, and then what our goal is while working with Mr. Wiley this year, maybe our future goals as well. A lot of questions I just asked you all at once. Let's start with the history, if you will, of EDI here at Springford.
That's a great question. The EDI committee was formed in 2019, in fall of 2019. So this is our third year. Initially, it was called the School Diversity Committee. And the purpose of it was to assess, recommend, and coordinate activities that would have a positive impact on our school climate and promote diversity. Now, that work is a continuation of work that had been going on for years with our Unity Days and with our a lot of the work that we had done with resiliency. So this was kind of a continuation of that. 2019, that first year, the committee was a little bit smaller, and the focus was really on establishing a board policy so that we could help kind of focus and center our work. So it took a good part of the year. Policies take some time to develop, especially whenever Springford was really one of the first, I would say, dozen in the Commonwealth to have such a policy put into place. So a good bit of the work was around building that policy, and we did get that policy approved early summer of 2020. Year two was really starting to build capacity. So we started to grow. The committee began to grow. More involvement with various stakeholders, with more teachers got involved, and we started holding sessions for staff, right, to kind of help talk to them about areas of equity, diversity, and inclusion, for special education, for some of the other things that we were going on, and having really good conversations around these topics. And that was our focus year two. And as we got ready for year three, we did realize that there was a need for somebody to help kind of guide our direction and how to develop a long range plan for some of the work that we wanted to do to help support our students and help continue to work towards improving our climate. So there was an interview process that we went through, that we had a committee of administrators that met with various consultants, and Mr. Carlos Wiley was the one who kind of emerged as the awarded candidate, so to speak. So we brought him on board in the summer of he was approved to be on board in the summer of 2021, and his work really started with us this past August, just last month or 2 months ago. He came in and he met with a few of our administrators, met with members of our EDI committee early August, and the relationship has since started. So his work is really to work alongside us and help us develop a plan based on the data that we've collected through various means to kind of help Springford move forward.
So when we talk about equity, diversity, and inclusion in Springford, it's a large group of people. When we talk about inclusion, our special ed community has a different idea of what inclusion means for them than maybe a high school music student who wants to be included in more than just the music program. So inclusion is a wide cast net, as is diversity.
So diversity is really kind of a catch-all term in a lot. I mean, we are not all the same people. We all have different backgrounds. We all have different experiences, different appearances, different beliefs, and really diversity is about celebrating what those differences are, not using those as areas for us to divide. So whenever we talk about Unity Days that we've been doing for a number of years now, those days are geared towards celebrating the differences amongst our students and really trying to understand each other a little bit better, and what makes us all different. So when we talk about diversity, it really is all encompassing, whether it be gender, race, special education, any other way that people look to see differences in people. It really comes down to, how we celebrate those. And that's kind of the work that we're moving towards.
And equity is making sure all of our students, all of our community is receiving equal and fair education.
Yeah, so we all want students to have full access to what Springford has to offer. And equity is not a new concept for public education at all. When you look at where we want our Springford students to be when they graduate high school, we have a set of standards that we believe that the state mandates, and we want our students to reach those. So if a student needs additional support to help get them to that same set of standards, then we provide that. And that's what equity is. It really is providing additional resources to help all students reach that goal of meeting what we value and what our state requires.
Well, I don't want to take all the limelight away from really our guest star coming up next, Mr. Carlos Wiley. Andrew will be interviewing him. But I think it's good to start this interview with having a little bit of the history here, a little of the backstories as to how we got here and where we are today. And maybe if you wouldn't mind, what is our overall goal here at Springford as we look towards the next 5 years, which is a number that we've talked about with Mr. Wiley, getting a plan this year that will carry us through the next 5 before this is a culture that's ingrained in our community.
I think our overall goal, at least certainly for this year, is to look at our data, look at our students, look at our information, our cultures, our climates here in Springford, and see if we have areas where we can improve. And if we have those areas where we can improve, then we begin to develop a plan for improvement. So that all of our students can feel welcome, can feel safe, and can feel comfortable working with each other and within our schools. I think that's our goal, and our overarching goal is just to build a warm, nurturing environment, again, where we continue to work towards celebrating each other and celebrating those differences, and really just promoting that community, that level of community.
Well, thank you so much, and we'll have Mr. Rothermel and Mr. Wiley come on in now.
All right, thank you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the RCTV studio. We're here today with a very special guest, Carlos Wiley, our EDI consultant at Springford Area School District. Carlos, why don't you give us a little general background and some of your experience?
My consulting company is W3 Consulting. I also have a full-time job at Penn State University, where I'm the director of the Paul Robeson Cultural Center. Prior to coming to Penn State, I was at the University of Wisconsin-Platteville, where I was the director of the Multicultural Educational Resource Center, as well as the director of University Diversity Initiatives, where I did that for 8 years, roughly. And so my background is really in working with and building diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, policies, and to help institutions, be committed and show that commitment through the work that they do in helping to address the issues that they really have related to inequity as it works with diversity in race, ethnicity, gender, and sexual orientation.
So when we talk about equity, diversity, and inclusion in public education, who are we talking about?
We're talking about students, faculty, staff, the communities in which the schools reside. We're really talking about the future, though. What we're talking about really is how are we preparing students to go and work and be productive citizens in a global society. Today, we have students who are already exposed to the diversity of thought, the diversity of people through social media, through access to the internet. Whereas 20 years ago, we didn't have those things. Or I guess it'd be more than 20 years ago. So 30 years ago, we didn't have those things. And so it was more difficult for us to meet people that were from different places in the world and to engage in, understanding of how cultural differences can help us grow as individuals. So that's what we're talking about. How can we help students fit into that world that they're already a part of in a more meaningful way that will allow them to, have jobs that sustain and they can sustain themselves in and a family in down the road.
And why is it important to address equity, diversity, and inclusion in education?
Because education is a place where you're supposed to be able to help, the goal of education, I believe, is to help students develop problem solving and critical thinking skills. And that begins in the K through 12 education system. Being someone who has worked in higher ed now for 20 plus years, students when they lead, employers and people that are hiring them are looking for students who can work well with others, who can solve problems creatively, and who have the ability to critically think about issues. It's not a cookie cutter answer, but something that they've thought about and can intuitively see and try to resolve. So it's important that we talk about it in education, because that's where we're going to learn, by having conversations with people who have had different experiences than us. We can learn from them, incorporate what we learn from them into our thinking, and then that will allow us to be able to think more critically.
And what does it mean for a school district to have a commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion?
For a school district to have a commitment, it means that you're looking at critical data points to see where there may be or may not be a need related to EDI. It's to start to think more progressively around issues and topics that are currently maybe on the forefront, maybe in people's forefront of their mind, or may not be. But looking at things like we have, gender expression has become something that is very much a part of our young people's lives today, our kids' lives today. So, as school districts go through renovations of buildings and things like that, we think about making them ADA compliant. But are we also thinking about how students whose gender expression doesn't match how they present? How are we making space, thinking about how their spaces should look, right? So are we looking at how many gender neutral bathrooms are we putting in spaces? Are we thinking about gender neutral locker rooms for students who may identify that? How are we looking at and utilization of Title IX when it comes to sports? So those are all things that we want to just put in the forefront of our minds, that these things may be things that we're going to have to deal with it as it relates to diversity, especially around that realm of gender expression.
So we're talking right now about what's in the buildings. We're going to transition here for a minute. How can our community demonstrate a commitment to supporting all students through equity, diversity, and inclusion?
The community can volunteer, be a part of things, right? Start book clubs. The community can, want to participate or start their own EDI or DEI, however you want to say it, committee, to work in concert with the school district to help spread the word in the community that this is a good thing. We have a diverse group of students. We have a diverse community. How do we celebrate that diversity? How do we enhance that diversity and not look at it as something that's negative and we should be fearful of?
And what approach do you recommend a person uses to understand the perspectives of peers who have different backgrounds?
Be polite, be kind, be open, be authentically yourself, right? I think understanding things like terms like microaggressions. What is a microaggression? Right? So if I meet someone, that is different than myself, and I want to start up a conversation, instead of saying, "Where are you from?" you might, if you're unsure of their ethnicity and that's what you want to know, then ask. Right? Be authentic. Say, if you don't mind me asking, what is your ethnicity? Then they can tell you, and then that can lead you to a conversation about their culture, about who they are, and so on and so forth, as opposed to saying, where are you from? And then them telling you where their home is. So, they could say, someone could say, where are you from? And I would say, or I'm from Buffalo, New York. That's not the answer that they were looking for. They're really trying to figure out what my ethnicity is. So just ask that question, be honest and forefront. And I think you'll find that people are more open and willing to engage in conversations that way.
And how do you plan on supporting the Spring-Ford community as we focus on EDI?
So my goal is to help Spring-Ford. So a year ago, the school board passed a educational equity policy. So I've been looking at the policy to see what the areas of emphasis were in the policy, And I'm going to help the school district prioritize and create a diversity, equity, and inclusion implementation plan by looking at data. And I'm here today and tomorrow for a listening tour and talking with students and parents and teachers and getting a feel for what's going on in the district as far as the schools are concerned, and to help really flesh out what that plan looks like, and then how we implement it, and then how we assess it, and then how we eventually learn from those things that we're doing right, things that we're doing wrong, and how do we close that assessment loop. So really, that's what I'm here to do, is help create that plan, help with the implementation of the plan, and then help with the assessment of the plan. And hopefully that will get the district started in the right direction that will be long lasting.
Now, do you plan to implement critical race theory into the curriculum here at Springford?
No. I'm not implementing anything into the school district. I am only here as a consultant to consult with people and help them formulate the plan, right? And then say, okay, after you formulated a plan, here are the things here's how you implement the plan, right? So let's say that from the data, we recognize that at the high school level, we have a group of students, we'll say Latino students, who feel that they've been bullied because of their race or ethnicity. And we don't have there's no bullying part of the curriculum in the high school level. So, but that's what comes out of the data. The plan may say that we need to work on addressing bullying at the K through 12, at the 10 through 12 level. Implementation may be, so then I may consult with folks about what that workshop training will look like, how to help them build a curriculum. They'll build the curriculum for it, and then how they implement it. That's just all I'm doing. Critical race theory is not something that I would be implementing into the district, and I don't believe that it's something that the people that are on the EDI committee and the administrators want to, put into the district.
So what exactly is critical race theory, and why is it a hot topic right now in public education?
I think because it sounds good is why it's a hot topic. Critical race theory is the examination it was created by a group of law scholars to say that in order for us to better understand how we got to a point in U.S. society where we have this racial divide, that we should examine and look at the laws that created these divides and examine them and examine all laws for racial biases. That's what critical race theory is. So it's a theoretical ideology as opposed to a practical implementation. I think folks that are upset or using the buzz terms, critical race theory and things of that nature, should really take a look at the states that have implemented or have introduced bills to ban critical race theory. For example, the state of Florida, nowhere in their proposed ban on critical race theory do they even use the word critical race theory. Their proposed ban is to remove Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks from being taught in history. So they're not talking about this critical race theory in the sense of looking at laws and how it created racial inequity. They're talking about removal of racial history in the United States history books, so that students wouldn't be made aware, or you can't talk about Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks and Malcolm X and things like that in history classes. That's what they're talking about. And so those are two different things. And unfortunately, they've latched onto this term critical race theory but realistically, that's not what they're doing. And so folks should want to examine some of those legislative bills to see what they're really talking about.
And now you've had an opportunity today, and you'll have tomorrow as well, to visit most of our schools. What are you hoping to glean from this listening tour?
I'm hoping to glean where people believe the school district is at, how they can serve the students in the school district, how the students feel about their experiences in the school district, and how they have grown, not grown, what the students may see as issues that they would like to see the addressed, and how they would want to see them addressed. I could say that, so far today, visiting 3 elementary schools, I see a common theme already that is woven throughout the elementary curriculum that addresses diversity. And I would say it addresses inclusion, the inclusion piece more so than anything else, around belonging, being yourself, being kind to others. Spring City's small building, big heart motto stuck with me because that's so true, right? We build community, and I think that's the idea. We all live in a community. We all want to be good neighbors, and so that theme of the elementary schools, how do we take that and continue that through middle school and high school, that allows our students to have this seamless education around this idea of being inclusive and welcoming everyone, regardless of their look, their ability status, their gender identity. How do we welcome all these people and make them feel welcome for their entire educational experience?
So I think you just answered my last question, which is what do you hope to see come out of this partnership? Is there anything else you'd like to add on that?
Yeah, well, out of this partnership, I would like to see that, we actually can get to a point where we have a plan, it's being implemented, and we see the results of that plan. I would like to, for me, I'd like to be able to, hopefully build some lasting relationships with folks in the district that will be beneficial for both myself and them in the future. And hopefully I would like to see, the school district move in a direction that is positive from the work that I've helped them create.
And now, do you have any other resources that are willing to help out with you for this community?
Yeah, I do. I have a network of folks that at different points in time can be utilized for many different things, from trainings, workshops, guest speakers, whatever it needs to help the community grow.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time today, Carlos.
I appreciate being here, and thanks a lot, Andrew.
Thank you, everybody, for staying tuned today here in my interview with Carlos Wiley. I'm Andrew Rothermel for RCTV. Thanks for watching.